Look around at your life right now, the money in your account, the condition of your body, the strength of your relationships, the level of your success. None of it is an accident. Napoleon Hill would tell you, you are standing in the exact spot your daily habits have been leading you to for years. Your habits are the invisible architects of your destiny. They've been building this life brick by brick, day after day, choice after choice. And here's the truth. Nothing will change until they do. The problem is, most people think their life is built by big events, lucky breaks, huge wins, major losses. But those are just the headlines. The real story is written in the small, repeated actions you take without thinking. The coffee you reach for instead of the water. The phone you scroll instead of the book you read. The excuses you choose instead of the work you do. These moments feel insignificant in the moment, but they are compounding silently, stacking up to create the results you're living with today. Napoleon Hill understood the compounding power of habit. He knew that success and failure are both gradual processes, one built by the disciplined repetition of the right actions, the other by the careless repetition of the wrong one. You don't wake up one day in shape. You've been building that body for years through the meals you've eaten and the exercises you've done. You don't wake up broke overnight. You've been making decisions, small and large, that have been moving you toward it. Wherever you are right now, your habits got you here. And here's the part most people don't want to face. If you stay loyal to the same habits, they will keep you here. No matter how much you dream, no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you want a better life, if you keep the same daily actions, your future will look exactly like your present. You can wish for change, but without changing the patterns you live by, you are simply wishing to arrive somewhere new while walking in circles. The beauty and the danger of habits is that they don't care who you are or what you want. They work for or against you with the same loyalty. They are like employees that never take a day off. Feed them laziness and they will build you a life of mediocrity. Feed them discipline and they will build you a life of excellence. Either way, they will obey the orders you give them through your daily choice. That's why Hill stressed the need for definiteness of purpose. Because once you know exactly where you want to go, you can begin to build habits that aim you like a compass in that direction. Every habit you choose is either a step toward that purpose or a step away from it. And over time, the steps add up until you can no longer hide from where they've taken you. The uncomfortable truth is that your habits are more honest than your intentions. You can say you want success, but your habits will tell the truth about whether you actually do. You can talk about becoming wealthy, but if your daily routines are built around spending rather than building, your habits have already voted against that goal. You can dream about becoming disciplined, but if your mornings are ruled by the snooze button, your habits have already decided for you. Napoleon Hill knew that people often overestimate the power of motivation and underestimate the power of routine. Motivation is a spark. It can get you moving for a day, maybe a week, but routine is the engine. It runs every day, whether you feel like it or not. That's why successful people put more effort into designing their habits than chasing bursts of motivation. They understand that what you do on autopilot will always outweigh what you do on rare occasions of inspiration. And here's where most people go wrong. They think they need to overhaul their entire life in one massive change. They set huge, unrealistic expectations, fail to meet them, and then conclude that they're not cut out for success. But the truth is, you don't change your life by flipping it upside down overnight. You change it by replacing one small habit at a time, over and over, until the person you've become can no longer live the life you had before. This is why your current reality is such a reliable map of your habits. If you want to know where your health will be in 5 years, look at how you're eating and moving right now. If you want to know where your finances will be, look at how you're spending and saving today. If you want to know where your relationships will be, look at how much effort, attention, and presence you're giving them now. The future is not a mystery. It is a delayed reflection of your present routine. And this is the part that separates the dreamers from the doers. Doers take this truth personally. They don't see it as an attack. They see it as a mirror. They accept that if their habits got them here, their habits can take them somewhere better. They stop blaming fate, bad luck, or other people because they know the most powerful thing they can change is what they do every single day. And when they start doing that, the compound effect works in their favor instead of against. Your habits are not just actions, they are votes for the person you are becoming. Every repetition strengthens the identity behind it. Skip the workout and you're not just missing exercise, you're casting a vote for the version of you that breaks promises to yourself. Sit down to write every morning and you're not just filling pages, You're casting a vote for the version of you that shows up no matter what. Over time, these votes accumulate until your identity is impossible to deny, both to yourself and to the world. Napoleon Hill understood that success was not an event, it was a condition you created by the steady, repeated practice of certain disciplines. And failure was the same. No one wakes up ruined or successful overnight. They arrive there one habit at a time. That's why habits are more powerful than goals. Goals can be set and forgotten, but habits are lived. Goals can be abandoned, but habits will follow you faithfully, for better or worse. The real danger is that most destructive habits feel harmless in the moment. Skipping a day of saving money doesn't make you broke instantly. Eating junk food once doesn't ruin your health immediately. Procrastinating on your work for one afternoon doesn't destroy your career in a single day. The cost of bad habits is delayed, and that's what makes them so dangerous. They let you believe you're getting away with them, all while silently compounding the damage. But the same is true for the habits that build you. Reading for 30 minutes won't make you a genius today, but do it daily for a year, and your mind will be sharper than most. Exercising this morning won't transform your body instantly, but a year from now, it will have rebuilt you. The compounding power of good habits is slow, but it is unstoppable, if you're patient enough to let it work. And here's the most important truth. Habits don't ask for permission to shape your future. They're doing it right now, whether you're paying attention or not. Every single day, you're building a life brick by brick. The only question is whether the structure you're building will be something you want to live in. If it's not, then the answer isn't to hope for change. It's to change the blueprint by changing the habit. The truth is, you can't escape your habits. You can ignore them, justify them, or pretend they don't matter. But sooner or later, you will meet the results they've been building for you. And when that day comes, it will be too late to go back and rewrite the past. You can't undo years of neglect in a single week of effort. You can't erase financial recklessness with one smart decision. You can't rebuild broken trust with a single act of goodwill. The harvest is always in proportion to the seeds you've been planting. Napoleon Hill would tell you that your habits are the clearest measure of your true priorities. You can say you value health, but if you neglect movement and fuel your body poorly, your habits prove otherwise. You can say you value success, but if you spend more time escaping reality than building your future, your habits expose the truth. You can say you value growth, but if you avoid challenge and cling to comfort, your habits show you've chosen stagnation. The good news is that habits are not fixed. They can be rebuilt, but rebuilding requires the same two things that created them in the first place: repetition and time. Just as a bad habit becomes automatic through consistent repetition, a good habit becomes second nature. The same way, you won't feel the change in a week. You may not even see it in a month, but the shift is happening beneath the surface just as surely as roots are growing under the soil before a tree breaks through. This is where most people fail. They underestimate the cost of maintaining a bad habit and overestimate the difficulty of building a good one. They convince themselves that change is impossible because they've tried before and failed. But failure in the past doesn't mean the habit can't be changed. It means the system you used to change it wasn't strong enough to outlast your old patterns. The key is persistence, not perfection. And once you begin stacking enough good habits, something powerful happens. Momentum takes over. You no longer have to force yourself to do the right thing. It becomes the natural thing. You stop needing constant motivation because the habit itself has become your default mode. And at that point, the same compounding power that once worked against you now works for you, silently, relentlessly, unshakably pulling you toward the future you've chosen. Your habits are the silent agreements you've made with your future. Every day you keep them. You are signing your name to the life they will produce. If your habits are weak, you've agreed to a weak future. If your habits are strong, you've agreed to a strong one. This is why Napoleon Hill insisted that success is never a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice, and that choice is made in the smallest, most ordinary moments of your day. The dangerous thing is that habits don't feel urgent until the results arrive. A lifetime of small financial mistakes shows up one day as a crisis. Years of neglecting your health show up as a diagnosis. Months of avoiding meaningful work show up as an empty portfolio and a list of regrets. The pain is always delayed, which is why it's so easy to ignore. But by the time it's obvious, the damage is already done. And here's the beautiful truth. The opposite is also real. The rewards of good habits are just as delayed, but just as certain. The first workout doesn't transform your body, but it sets the foundation for a stronger future. The first saved dollar doesn't make you wealthy, but it begins the chain that can lead to freedom. The first hour of focused work doesn't build a legacy, but it lights the fire that the results may take time to appear, but once they do, they arrive with interest multiplied far beyond the effort you put in. But here's where most people sabotage themselves. They trade the future they want for the comfort they can have now. They choose what feels good in the moment over what will feel great in the long run. And each time they make that trade, they reinforce the habit of settling for less. Before long, it becomes second nature. And second nature is just another name for the life you've taught yourself to live. The truth is, your habits are teaching you something every day. They are teaching you who you are and what you can expect from yourself. Change the lesson and you change the outcome. Build habits that teach you discipline, focus, and resilience, and those traits will appear in your results. Build habits that teach you laziness, distraction, and avoidance, and those traits will shape your reality too. The law is simple. Your habits are the training ground for your destiny. If you want to predict your future, don't look at your dreams. Look at your routines. Dreams are intention. Routines are evidence. A person's habits tell you far more about where they'll be in 5 years than their words ever could. You don't have to ask someone what they want. Watch what they do every day, and if you want to know where you're headed, take that same hard look in the mirror. Napoleon Hill understood that the most dangerous thing you can do is let your habits form by accident. If you don't choose them, the world will choose them for you. Your environment will shape them. Your friends will influence them. Your emotions will dictate them. And before you know it, you'll be living by patterns you never consciously agreed to, but which you follow without question. This is why self-discipline is not just about willpower. It's about conscious design. It's about deciding which actions will take you where you want to go, and then building your life so those actions become automatic. Because here's the truth. The most disciplined people don't feel disciplined all the time. They've simply created habits that protect them when their motivation is low. Their success is not the product of occasional intensity, but of consistent, structured repetition. And that's where the turning point comes. You can choose to keep living in the results your current habits will give you, or you can decide to rebuild them one choice at a time. This will not be glamorous. It will not be instant. Some days it will feel invisible, but every single day you stick to a new, better habit, you are bending the arc of your life toward a different destination. And eventually the curve becomes so steep in your favor that no setback can drag you back down. At that point, the compounding effect becomes undeniable. What once took effort now feels natural. What once felt impossible now feels routine. You stop chasing results and start living them, and you realize something powerful. Your life didn't change because you got lucky, or because a single dramatic event transformed everything. It changed because you quietly, consistently, and stubbornly built it with the only tools that ever matter, the habits you live by every day. Your habits are the silent proof of what you believe about yourself. If you believe you're disciplined, your actions will confirm it every morning you rise before the world does. If you believe you're weak, your actions will confirm it every time you choose the easy way out. This is why Napoleon Hill taught that the first victory you must win is over your own daily patterns, because they reveal your self-image, and your self-image dictates your entire destiny. Most people want to change their life without changing their habit. They want the reward of a fit body without the discipline of movement and nutrition. They want financial freedom without the restraint of budgeting and investing. They want influence and respect without the habit of serving and providing value. But the law is unbreakable. You can only reap what you plant, and you can only plant through habit. The problem is, habits don't just shape your future, they shape your present identity. If you keep breaking promises to yourself, you start seeing yourself as unreliable. If you keep procrastinating, you start seeing yourself as someone who always runs behind. And once that identity sets in, it becomes harder to break free. Not because the actions are impossible, but because you've convinced yourself that this is simply who you are. But here's the truth. Who you are is nothing more than the sum of the habits you've practiced long enough to believe. Change the habit, and over time, you change the belief. Change the belief, and you change the identity. And once your identity changes, your results follow as a matter of course. This is the chain reaction. Napoleon Hill wanted every person to understand. Habit, belief, identity, destiny. That's why the smallest shift in habit can become the spark for the largest transformation. One daily action repeated enough, can break the chain of failure and start the chain of success. It doesn't have to be dramatic, it just has to be consistent. And once you see that shift take hold, you'll understand something powerful. Your habits were never just action, they were the architects of your entire life. If you truly want to change your life, you must stop focusing on the outcome and start focusing on the system that produces it. The outcome is a snapshot. The system is the camera. Change the system, and the pictures it produces will change automatically. Your habits are that system. They are the machinery that builds your future one invisible movement at a time. Napoleon Hill taught that every man is where he is by the law of his habit. Your current position is not random. It is earned by the daily disciplines you've kept or neglected. You cannot cheat this law. You can delay its effects for a season, but eventually you will live inside the house your habits have been building. And when that day comes, you will either thank yourself for the work you've put in, or regret that you let so many days pass in carelessness. The real danger is not in having bad habits, it's in being unconscious of them. You can't fight what you don't see. You can't fix what you won't admit. That's why the first step toward change is awareness. Take an honest audit of how you spend your time, how you react to challenges, how you care for your body, your mind, and your relationships. Strip away the excuses, the stories, the self-justifications, and look only at the action. They will tell you the truth about where you're going. And once you see that truth, you have a choice. You can keep walking the same path, or you can turn and start building a new one. The new path won't be easier at first. In fact, it will feel harder because you are breaking patterns that have been etched into your mind through years of repetition. But if you persist long enough, those new patterns will replace the old ones, and the actions that once felt forced will start to feel natural. That is when you know your future is secure, not because it's guaranteed, but because it is now being built by the kind of habits that inevitably lead to success. You won't have to rely on willpower every day because the system will be working for you. You won't have to wonder if you'll follow through, because the follow-through will be automatic. And when that happens, success stops being something you chase and becomes something you live. Once your habits begin working for you instead of against you, life takes on a different rhythm. Progress is no longer a fight, it becomes a byproduct. You stop thinking about how to stay consistent because consistency is now built into who you are. And this is where most people misunderstand success. They think it's about occasional big wins, but in reality, it's about designing daily wins so small they almost go unnoticed until the results are too big to ignore. Napoleon Hill understood that a man who controls his habits controls his destiny. That control doesn't come from wishful thinking or from reading another book. It comes from conscious choice repeated until it becomes unconscious behavior. It's a shift from doing discipline to being disciplined. And once that shift happens, the work that used to feel heavy becomes part of your natural state. But here's where the danger creeps back in. When good habits start producing good results, it's easy to relax. You tell yourself you've made it, you let one day slip, then two, then a week. And slowly, the very habits that built your success begin to erode. You may not notice at first because momentum will carry you for a while, but eventually you'll slow down, and by the time you feel it, you've already slid backward. This is why the most successful people protect their habits like treasure. They treat them as sacred because they understand that those habits are the lifeline to everything they've built. They never let the momentum make them careless. They never mistake progress for permanent. They know that the same law that built their success will also destroy it if they stop feeding it the right actions. And here's the truth. If you want to stay ahead, you must raise your habits to match your next level, not just maintain the ones that got you here. Every stage of growth demands a different version of you, and that version will require different disciplines. The danger is thinking you can coast on yesterday's effort. You can't. The habits that built your present are not enough to build your future. And if you forget that, you'll wake up one day realizing your habits have stopped leading you forward and started holding you back.